With over 12 years in the technology sector, Mr. Gautam Nimmagadda is the founder and CEO of Quixy, which is a no-code digital transformation platform. In his role as a dynamic entrepreneur, Gautam captains leadership, customer engagement, strategizing solutions, and strong business acumen while building a world-class team at Quixy. His expertise lies in product ideation, product building, process optimization, to name a few. Gautam holds a master's degree in computer science from the University of Iowa, United States, and a bachelor of engineering in computer science from the renowned CBIT, which stands for Chaitanya Bharati Institute of Technology, affiliated to Usman University in Hyderabad. When away from work, Gautam is a curious reader and loves dreaming or imagining new possibilities. He is also a former numismatist. So, in today's episode, let us learn more about Gautam's journey in establishing a company, Quixy, and also get his insights on low-code, no-code platform. Hello. Hi there. Welcome to the Guiding Voice podcast series, The Guiding Voice for a Better Future. This podcast is to help professional students, IT employees, and entrepreneurs to shape their careers. In case if you have tuned into our podcast for the first time, you have missed a lot of stuff. But don't worry, all our previous episodes are available on your favorite podcast listening platforms, including Spotify, Ghana.com, Casters, Amazon Music, and so on. Also, we are available on YouTube. Just search for The Guiding Voice and start tuning in. Also, if you have not rated our podcast on Apple, please provide your rating and also request you to leave a positive review, because every rating and review will motivate us to bring in more and more useful content to you. So this is your host, Naveensamala, and I have about 18 years of rich and diverse experience in the IT industry. In every episode, we interact with industry experts or thought leaders or academicians or coaches across the globe to drive some insightful conversations that will help our audience learn great things. Also, we share an interesting trivia or a fun fact about the IT world or technology towards the end. So stay tuned till the end. You'll acquire more knowledge per every minute on TGV than any other podcast in this space. Thank you so much for tuning in. So folks, today we are going to discuss a topic, low code, no code. And we're pleased to have Gautam, part of TGV's journey in shaping the lives and careers of millions across the globe. Gautam, welcome to TGV.
Thank you, Naveen. It's a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. It's wonderful to have this conversation today, Gautam. Gautam, we will get started with your career journey and top 3 things that have helped you in terms of setting up your own enterprise, Quixy.
Thanks for that background that you've given about me. So I did my bachelor's in India, then I did my master's in US. Post my master's, I joined a company called Cerner, which is a leader in healthcare. So I had an interesting opportunity there where I worked in a team that was a startup yet acquired by Cerner, but they still operated kind of independently. And there it was a wonderful experience where I learned how to work in an organizational setup. And I had a great manager. And from him, I learned the power of teamwork and what leadership can actually do and inspire teams to achieve way more than what they can or what they believe they can do. So that's something that I really learned from Cerner. And in 2011, I returned back to India. And so I joined a company called Naviga Engineering, which is an infrastructure major in India. It's one of the premier infrastructure companies in the country. So this sudden switch from being a software engineer to an infrastructure company. So I made this career decision to kind of move away from being purely a technical person and get into more of a management aspect, understand business better, and that's exactly what I learned at Naviga Engineering. So it's a pretty large company, nearly $1 billion in revenue in India. So that's pretty large and employing tens of thousands of people. So there I've learned, I wore various hats ranging from implementing an ERP to changing the way the supply chain, the procurement process works in Naviga Engineering, working with suppliers from China, working with the finance team to create presentations and then presenting them to banks for our future projects, creating project management processes in a wide variety of things. So I learned a whole lot of things in understanding what it takes to run a large business. I got the macro picture. what are the various aspects in a business and what how do they run. Then eventually I switched to Naviga Infotech in 2013. So I put my hand up and said that, hey, I want to take a shot at it and see if I can, take the company to the next level. So there, though the company was established for a while until then, so I took it up as a, kind of a fresh slate assignment. And there I learned the science of unit economics. I've learned team building, and I learned the art of negotiating and then strategizing and tactics in business. So all of these experiences put together over the last 12, 13 years have really helped me in kind of shaping my thought process, fine tuning my ideas, which eventually ended up in doing what I'm doing now.
You had a very interesting career journey, Gautam, switching from IT to infrastructure and again back to IT. So some of the aspects which overlap with my journey as a project manager, as well as establishing some process governance, as well as working on creating a framework around project management. Those are all very interesting. And in addition to that, a few things that stuck my mind is about having a great leader, because that is very important, and someone has inspired you and you are still speaking about him after about 11 years, right? So which is really motivating. And in addition to that, you also touched upon the aspect of teamwork, which is very essential. And as you are building your own team at Quixy, I'm sure, and you are applying all those learnings from the past. So very interesting, and thank you so much for sharing your journey. Now let's talk about the core of today's topic. We are in the generation of these Pythons, Golang, JavaScript, as well as React.js, AngularJS, and all. But you have come up with a new concept called the low-code, no-code platform. What is this low-code, no-code platform all about?
Just a little bit of context before I get into what low-code, no-code is. A little bit of a disclaimer. The no-code or low-code is not here to eliminate anything, but it is here to complement and augment what is already existing. So with that disclaimer and context, so the idea is, to allow business users or people who understand the problem better, but not necessarily have the technical skills to be able to build the solutions that they want, kind of stifling the world, right? So there is a statistic that, the requirement for the business world over the next 4 years is 500 million apps, 500 million. And the capacity available to build apps would be 50 million. So what happens to this 450 million apps, right? So there's no capacity, which will cause slower progress, and that's exactly what we are trying to address, right? So the low code no code movement, or the no code movement as it's popularly called now, it's addressing this specific issue where there is a whole lot of demand but there's not enough capacity. We will not be able to create so many software engineers and technical capability to kind of become 10 times what the capacity is. So instead we've innovated and come up with these new methods to build software, where we are allowing people who do not have the technical capabilities to build software that they want.
Yeah, this is quite fascinating. You touched upon the demand as well as the supply or the capacity part of it. And definitely having a platform which requires minimal or no coding might come handy. Can we talk a little bit about the background or the evolution of low-code platform and the reason why it is existing, other than the demand capacity thing that you have already covered up?
Yeah, so the second thing comes from something that I've experienced as well, and a lot of people in the world have experienced it. So the people on the business side, they know what the problem is, and they're the ones who are closest to the problem. They understand the domain at best. And however, when they're trying to solve this problem with a digital solution, they have to convey this problem to somebody in the digital teams, right? The IT teams, the software engineering teams. Now, these people try to understand what the business needs, and then try to translate that into a document, and that document gets passed on to the software engineering team, who translate that into code, and then which becomes software, something tangible, which is tested by another team who use a whole set of documents to understand, okay, this is the requirement, and they will test whether it is meeting the requirements. So in all of this process of the knowledge being traversed from one team to another, And while the domain expertise remains on one side of it, the whole technical team tries to figure out a solution for them, the knowledge is lost. Not all, but a reasonable chunk of knowledge is lost in translation. And the people who are solving the problem do not feel the problem. They probably know the problem, but they do not fully feel the problem. So the nitty-gritties or the smaller, finer aspects of it, which bring complete aspect to a solution, are lost. So this is on from the domain expert side of it. Now, if you look at it from the IT team perspective, right? So though I said that the requirements are lost, knowledge is lost, etc., none of it is lost by intention. The IT teams try very, very hard to provide the best of possible solutions to their customers. And at the end of the day, when they go back with that wonderful solution that they think that they've built it in an awesome way, the customer says that, hey, this is not what I want. And the hearts are broken for so many people. So on both sides now, it's simply because everybody's trying very hard. It's just not happening because of this barriers that you may say. So what has happened over a period of time is we are able to bring the capability to build solutions to business users and somehow involve these business users in the process of building the solutions, then the quality will be much, much higher. Both in terms of non-loss of requirements and also in understanding the nuances, and therefore the solution will be complete and will be of much higher quality. So that's how low code no code has picked up momentum, and it has picked up momentum quite a bit over the last 2 years now.
So Gautam, one thing that resonates with me for the last 1.5 years, right? Everyone understood the intent of getting digitalized and trying to understand the importance of creating the products, that are easily accessible to the users and all. And that's what the experts call it, the line between the CXOs. When I say CXOs, the CFOs versus the CIOs and CDOs has been blurred, which means earlier, always IT was seen as a backend or a kind of function, which is an enabler. But now IT has got a seat in the round table in the boardrooms and all. Right. So definitely this seems to be very interesting platform because business users are now empowered to develop these solutions. And since they have that particular acumen and the domain knowledge, and definitely the turnaround time will also be shorter. And I think it's a good field to choose and to be on. Now, let's switch topics and talk about the coding aspect. With this low code and no code platforms coming into picture, what do you think will be the future of coding? And I think in the beginning you mentioned it is going to complement the coding, but I'm really curious, what will be the future of coding?
So the people who know coding and the people who are more technical in nature will start to build more and more complex solutions, more specialized solutions, rather than working on simpler applications. So the ability to build complex solutions and therefore the evolution of coding and programming languages will be much faster and will be much more advanced. So this is what I believe will happen because we are taking the load off on these coding languages to build simpler or what can be achieved through no-code platforms. Coding will be reserved for advanced and complex, and there will not be any elimination of coding. Coding will exist and it has to exist for us to achieve more and more. And that's exactly what I meant when I said that no-code platforms or low-code platforms will complement coding and will complement what the technology space is doing from a coding and a programming language point of view.
Yeah, I think I agree with your statement because if you look at the history of this business process management softwares, the so-called BPM tools and all, they have a lot of automation, but that did not take away the coder's job. Yeah, I think it resonates with it. And I was going through your profile, Gautam, and I came across this interesting headline, which says, on a mission to create 1 million citizen developers. So what motivated you to get there?
I've had this experience of, say, I was on the Naviga Infotech side, and we used to, put our heart and soul into these projects to deliver the best possible solution to the customer. And when we go to the customers, right, I think that first 1 month when we go back with the solution is like heartbreaking because we think that we've built a fantastic solution, but we've never managed to actually delight the customer on the first go. Right, so we managed to, you build solution, then eventually you reach okay, this is out of scope, blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot of back and forth. And eventually you reach to an agreement and, it moves forward. Maybe we'll see customer delight after usage of the solution. So this is something that really bothered me like immensely. I believed that we were in the business of customer delight. Unfortunately, we were not able to hit that objective often enough. So one of the reasons I saw was this gap. And so I felt that if we are able to allow these business users who are in millions and millions across the world. So just a quick fact that in the working population, less than 0.5% are programmers. So there are 99 point something percent of non-programmers who are working, right? So, and if we are able to enable even a small fraction of them, even like 4 or 5% of them to create solutions, then we will be able to change the world dramatically and drastically. So that's the main motivation for me to go on this mission to create a million citizen developers.
Wish you all the very best. I think it's a very noble intent, and especially this pandemic would have definitely fast forwarded that particular mission, because everybody is now tech savvy and is at least ready to get their hands dirty. And with the platforms like Quixy, I'm sure it is going to help them a lot. Now, let's talk briefly about your company, Quixy. So what are you guys building as a platform, and how it is helping the businesses achieve their outcomes?
So Quixy is a no-code platform focused towards businesses. We allow businesses to accelerate their digital transformation. So through the power of no-code. So I'll give you a few examples of what some of our customers have done. So we have customers who built their entire manufacturing pre-planning, production planning, then production management, the product dispatch management, inventory management, procurement. The whole gamut. And then we've had some of our customers who've built a container freight solution, which basically is like importing and exporting of shipping containers and then processing them. And then we've had customers who built for healthcare and or the pharma industry for manufacturing pharmaceutical products, end products, and some of them manufacturing APIs. So these wide variety of use cases, right? So construction, logistics, hospitality, banking. So we've had customers of this wide variety of industry, I think 16, 17 industries across 20 countries in the world. And they're building this wide variety of solutions that are for solving their unique problems. So Quixy as a platform, we are enabling all of these businesses to build the solutions exactly the way they want at 10 times the speed and at a much lower cost. So, and now they're able to have a platform that is digitally agile. So they've built something. Now, if they want to make a change, that change happens in like a few minutes or hours at best. Unlike the earlier days where it used to take weeks or months or something like that. So now the technology is agile and is allowing them for their businesses also to be agile. So that's the whole new gamut and the new value that we're bringing to the table.
Looks like you have covered almost every domain or industry, be it from the container management, talking about supply chain, procurement, manufacturing, construction, logistics, and all. That seems to be a gamut of industries, and you have also spanned across different countries. And I'm sure the future seems to be very bright, and wish you all the very best. And the most exciting part is the time to develop these particular solutions, right? It has shrunk, and at the same time, the cost has also come down. So thank you for sharing the details about Quixy. And Gautam, this has been a fantastic conversation, but let's add some spice to the episode, wherein I'm going to ask you a few interesting rapid fire questions. And in case if you are ready, we'll get started.
I'll try my best.
Wonderful. So all you need to do is just answer them very briefly, 2 to 3 words, or preferably one phrase. And with that, let me fire the first bullet out of the rapid fire. So Gautam, can you name a movie that inspired you?
Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah, in fact, I watched it very recently. I was really super thrilled. It's been on my wish list for the last few years, but fortunately, one of my friends has reminded me, go and watch this. I really became a fan of that particular movie. All right, let me move on to my next one. Speed or perfection?
Speed.
All right, bang on. Moving on to my next question. Given a chance, would you time travel to past or future, and why?
I would travel to past. When I believe it's not possible to travel to future, it'll kind of mess up my whole life. So I'll travel to past. And the interesting aspect would be we read about so much stuff that's happened in our past and we try to learn, right? So instead of learning from the books, I would try and go to these various interesting periods in the past and learn directly in experience. I think that would be wonderful.
Wow. You seem to be a history buff. All right. So moving on to my next question out of the rapid fire. Gautam, what has been a question on your mind for which you never got an answer for?
Is there life outside Earth? Is time travel possible?
Yeah, maybe we'll get answers in the next decade or two, hopefully. All right. Yeah, that was brilliant. Moving on to the last one for the rapid fire. So, what would you do if you won $1 billion lottery?
Okay, if I won so much money in a lottery, I would spend all of that money on R&D for water optimization and utilization, and also on bringing in how do we live in a balanced ecosystem, right? Research R&D on living in a balanced ecosystem. If I would get that money, I would spend every cent on it.
Wonderful. I think this is in line with Sudhakar's aspiration. Unfortunately, he is not joined today, but during our very first conversation, he was talking about this water and he came up with a visualization in terms of how can we tap the water near the mountain and all. Definitely, yeah, that's a wonderful cause. And this has been a fantastic rapid fire. And with that, let me flip back to the mainstream and ask you one final question for today's conversation. So, Gautam, what will be your one piece of advice to those aspiring to make big in their careers?
I would say first, dream big. Don't dream something small. Dream big. Believe that you can do something very big, and don't get bogged down when you have on the path of your goal. When you have failures or when you have roadblocks, those are the challenges that you're supposed to overcome. Which is what the whole point of dreaming big and that journey. So it is very, very important to persist. That's something that is very, very required, in my opinion, over the next 10 years or so. Though I said speed in the earlier rapid fire question, right? Speed is important, but so is persistence. Persist, and it is one of the key elements for success.
Simply amazing. That was a fabulous set of tips. First thing is dream big, believe in yourself, because if you won't believe yourself, nobody else can believe you. And don't get bogged down when you come across failures, because definitely failures will teach us a lot of how not to do certain things. So challenges will be part and parcel of our life. And lastly, you touched upon this persistence. Persistence, nothing can beat persistence. That's what I can say. So, Gautam, thank you for the amazing rapid fire. And also, I loved every bit of this interaction. And thank you so much for joining us today. It was a wonderful topic to talk about no code, low code platform. And I also wish you all the very best on the Quixy platform. And I wish you reach your mission of reaching millions of people who can use this kind of platforms and start delivering the solutions in very, very least possible time and come up with a cost-effective solutions. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Naveen, for having me on the show. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Pleasure hosting you as well. All right. So before we move into the trivia section, here is a request to all the listeners. If you have loved this episode and found it useful, request you to share with at least 3 of your friends or colleagues who can benefit from this show. The more you share, the wider we reach, and we'll get closer to our mission of reaching millions across the globe. Thank you so much in advance. All right. With that, let's flip to the trivia segment of today's episode. And in today's episode, we got Gautam's insights on low-code, no-code platform. But my trivia question is about the most popular programming language. If you observe the technology world, every year tons of languages that gets released. But how many of them survive and how many of them make the cut? So my question is, what is the most popular programming language in the recent time? I know you're thinking, but let me tell you the answer. According to Stack Overflow, which is one of the major platforms that supports the developer community, they did a survey in 2020 and found out that JavaScript stands as the most commonly used language in the world, with about 69.7% of the developers using it, followed by HTML and CSS, which is popular among 62.4% of developers, followed by SQL, which is again a kind of bread and butter for the databases, the structured query language, followed by Python and Java. Also, it is the most sought out programming language by the hiring manager in the Americas. So go ahead and start learning JavaScript. There are so many different variants that are getting released in the market to cater to different business solutions. So wish you all the best. Thank you so much for listening. There is more in store, folks. Stay tuned. Take care. Be safe. Until next time. Bye-bye. And we are signing off for today. See you all in the next episode with another wonderful guest.